Hey, what's up, everybody? Back with another stream today, going through the NBA slate. Today's is going to be a little bit quicker, as I don't have quite as much time today, but have some numbers to walk through and stuff. Thanks everybody who watched yesterday. It was awesome to have Brian versus the books on here. Super sharp guy. Hopefully, you guys are seeing all the amazing plays he's got on Twitter, and hopefully, we'll run that back sometime pretty soon. Also, just want to throw out if there are other people you would like to see on here, kind of talking through some of the games, I'd love to have some different guests on here and there. And so hit me up in the comments or, on Twitter or whatever, and let me know if there are people you think would be good to have on sometime. So it'll depend on how much time I've got on a given day and different things like that. But obviously, stuff like yesterday with Brian is awesome and gives another angle to things. So I want to keep doing stuff like that. But let's jump into the games, get through these, and hopefully give you a couple angles here as you're making your decisions about what you want to play today. Going to start off with the Grizzlies and the Clippers. It looks like Adams and Anderson are out, and Morant is doubtful. So obviously, Morant being doubtful is a pretty big deal. He's been playing at a phenomenal level, and if you've been watching me long enough, you know that I haven't always been the biggest John Morant fan, but even I have to admit that, especially on the offensive side of the ball, he's just been absolutely killing it, and it is going to affect them if he's out. However, I will say, if you remember back to that stretch when Morant was out, that Memphis was playing at the highest defensive level of any team in the league. Now, I do think having Adams and Anderson out does affect them on the defensive end. Those are two of their better defenders. And so I'm not sure that they can play up to that same level defensively that they were playing at before when Morant was out. And so if Morant ends up being out, and actually Bane is a game time decision here too, if all those guys end up being out, I think it does change the complexion of this game a little bit. And I'll tell you kind of what I think about where that goes at the end. In terms of the Clippers, not a ton to say here. They're kind of consistently so-so, but they are a little bit hard to cap in terms of when they're going to come out and actually score a decent amount of points and when they're not. So that's a little bit tricky on this game. With the trends, really strong ATS trends for Memphis and really bad ATS trends for the Clippers. Strong under trends for Memphis and the Clippers in this one. And then in terms of the head-to-head matchup, a little bit different actually than the other trends. So Memphis is 2-5 against the spread in the last 7 against the Clippers. And the over is 7-3 in the last 10 between these two teams in LA. So I think if everybody sits out for Memphis, I actually kind of like the Clippers in this spot. Having Morris back and kind of getting in his groove is a big deal for them because they really need that help on offense. And I think with Adams and Anderson out and potentially Bane, I think that decreases the effectiveness that Memphis is going to be able to have on the defensive end of the floor. If Morant plays, then I would probably start looking at the over between these two teams because he's going to bring a lot to the offensive end that they lose without him there. So if Morant plays, I like the over in this game. It's a 213.5 right now. And if he doesn't play, then I probably stay away from that over under and maybe have a little bit of a lean toward the Clippers in this game. Next game up is the Magic and the Pistons, kind of the toilet bowl game of the day. But hey, you can still bet on it and make money, right? So we'll still talk about it. This one, the big thing is really who's playing for Orlando. They have Cole Anthony, Franz Wagner, and Wendell Carter are all game time decisions. If those three sit out, that's a huge blow for Orlando, especially Wagner has been really the guy that's been scoring for that team and making things happen. Cole Anthony definitely helps when he's in there as well, and Wendell Carter Jr. has been playing well, shooting the three well. So all three of them matter, and I would say especially on the offensive end for Orlando. This is a team that's already really challenged when it comes to scoring. In their last 5 away from home, they're only averaging 97 points a game. It's actually sort of flipped, where they were struggling so much to score at home earlier on in the season, and now they're scoring better at home, but they're scoring worse on the road. They have only allowed 97.2 points per game to opposing teams on the road, so they've just played in a lot of low-scoring games. Detroit, on the other hand, their last 5 at home, they're only averaging 100.6 points a game, and they only give up 102.2. And so initially to me, I was like, man, this might be a place to really look at the under. It's 212.5, which seemed like a high total to me initially between these two teams. Looking a little bit deeper into it, I think there's a little bit here to give us pause about that, though. So Detroit's team total is 107. They've actually been under that in 7 straight at home, and Orlando's held opponents under that in 7 straight away. Orlando's team total is 105.5. They've been under that in 7 straight away from home, and Detroit's held opponents under that in 6 of their last 10. So again, all of that looks toward the under. But if you look at December and January, when Orlando scores over this team total of the 105.5, so 106 or better, the strongest correlation here is 6 of 7 times they go over their assist number, their season average assist number. 6 of 7 times they're over their field goal percentage average. But then the big one is 7 out of 7 times, if you do field goal percentage and 3-point percentage combined, their average on the season is 75.1, and they've been over that in all 7 of the games in December and January where they score 106 or more. Obviously not a lot of games. 7 games in December and January where they've been 106 or better. But Detroit here, and that number is 75.1, their average. Detroit at home is allowing 82.1% combined between field goal and 3-point range. So this is the thing that gives me pause about jumping on that under like I was planning to, is if those 3 guys are in for Orlando, because that helps them a lot on offense. And they're playing a team in Detroit that gives up these key numbers that they need to score more points. That's probably going to keep me off of it. It is something I might watch live. And I actually would kick around taking Orlando's team total over as well, though I'm a little hesitant just because of their poor performance lately on the road scoring. So kind of some stuff on each side there, and sometimes that's just how it goes, and it makes the edge feel a little bit less strong. Next up are the Jazz and the Pacers. Big question in this game is who's going to play for the Jazz. Last night, the answer to that was nobody, and they still almost beat the spread against Toronto. That was really crazy. Toronto finally turned it up in the 3rd and 4th quarter a little bit and covered that spread, which was good because I was on that one. Tonight against Indiana, it looks like Gobert and Ingles will be out as far as I can tell, and then a lot of the other people are questionable. So I'm kind of capping this game as though the other people for Utah are going to be playing, but Gobert and Ingles will be out. So Indiana's team total tonight is 110. And what I looked at is when they score 115 points or more, what happens. So I'm trying to give a little bit of a buffer here because Utah is a pretty decent defensive team at least. And if you look at it, the strongest correlation for them is on assists. They've gone over in 6 out of 7 games when in December and January when they score 115 or better, sorry. And they've gone over their season average field goal percentage in 6 out of 7. So I want to focus in on that field goal percentage. Indiana's season average is 45.6%. They've gone over in 6 of 7 when they score 115 or better. Utah only allows 43.9, so they're like almost 2 points below Indiana's season average. However, when Gobert is out, they allow 46.3, which is now 0.9 points over that season average. Now, Indiana often did get to 50% or better when they were scoring 115, but not every time. And so I think that without Gobert in there, it opens things up a little bit more offensively for Indiana for them to be able to score. If he was playing, I would actually probably be interested in the under here, but it makes me a little bit more hesitant. Now, if Utah ends up having a bunch of people sit again, I would jump on Indiana. They're +3 right now. And Utah was really tired last night because they had so few people. So if some of these other guys sit out again, I think they're coming into this back-to-back already tired. And Indiana +3 would be a phenomenal line if that's the case. However, if most of them are back, they're going to be rested, and I think it makes it less of a good spot. In terms of the trends, Utah is actually 2-5 in their last 7 against Indiana, and the under is 4-0 in the last 4. So again, overall, probably the best spot I think in this game would be to take a shot on Indiana +3, but I haven't done that yet. I'm not sure that I will. This is another game where there's kind of some factors going each way. Next game we're going to talk about is the Bucks and the Hornets. And if you follow me on Twitter, you saw that with Blaze Bets, we had a collab today. Already took Charlotte on the money line at -110. That line has moved some. I think it's still it's Charlotte -2.5, still probably a pretty decent spot. Let's talk about why. So for Milwaukee, the question is who's going to play. Hill and Holiday, DiVincenzo, Connaughton, Allen, all of them are out. So they have very little guard play right now. Also on a back-to-back, Milwaukee's been known to just randomly sit Giannis at the very last minute. So I wouldn't be absolutely shocked to see Giannis sit here. And this is a bet that I like with Giannis in, but if he sits, man, I like it even better. So that's something to keep an eye on. Milwaukee in their last 5 away from home has been scoring a lot, 117.8 per game, giving up 107. However, on back-to-backs this year, they only average 101.7 points a game, so really low for them. And they give up 106.1, so about that similar range to what they normally give up. Another thing here is that Milwaukee has the number 10 defensive rating in the league at 108.4, but away from home, it's just not as good. It's 111.3, which is the same as Detroit's overall season rating, which is 9th worst in the league. And without Drew Holiday, he's one of their best defenders. Their defensive rating is actually 111.3 without Drew on the season. So a couple factors here that make me think that this is not going to be as good of a spot for Milwaukee defensively, missing all these players on a back-to-back, especially without Drew. The other thing I looked at here is Charlotte's team total is 118, which is really high. But when they hit 120 or better, the strongest correlations for them are they go over their average for assists and over their average for field goal percentage. They did that 7 out of 8 times when they score 120 plus on the season. Milwaukee does decent defensively. Charlotte's average is 27.2 assists per game, and Milwaukee only gives up 25.1. Their season average is 46.5% per game, and Milwaukee gives up 45.5 away from home. So a little bit below those season average numbers. But again, we have to remember that they're away from home and Drew isn't playing. So that's going to bump those numbers just a little bit. And I think have Charlotte ending up right around there. And this is the reason that I would stay away from Charlotte's team total, because I think that they are likely to end right around that team total. I would not be surprised to see them get 115 to 121, somewhere in there. And so that's not a big enough edge for me to take their team total. But I think that they can keep Milwaukee, even though they're not a great defense, that Milwaukee may not go off quite the way they have been. In terms of trends here, not tons of strong stuff, but the strongest things are within this specific matchup. Milwaukee's 7-1 in their last 8 against the spread at Charlotte. So strong lean in the trends towards Charlotte in this situation. And the under is actually 4-1 in the last 5 between these two teams at Charlotte. So that, again, pushes me a little bit toward that under. If anything, I might consider Milwaukee's team total under, but I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet either. All right, a couple more games today. The next one is a rematch of the Knicks and the Celtics. These two teams just played. And so what I did here actually was looked at their season average and then what happened in the last game. Obviously, a one-game sample is super small, and we don't want to take too much away from it, but I think we can get a sense of, did they kind of over or underachieve in their last game against each other? So the Knicks, most of their numbers were around the season average, but there was one big difference, and that had a lot to do with Evan Fournier, who absolutely went off. Their average on the season is 35.7% from three-point range, and they shot 50% from three-point range in that last game versus the Celtics. That's a 15-point difference. So 15 points more shooting that percentage based on the number of attempts they had compared to what it would have been if they shot their season average. And so in that way, I do think the Knicks overachieved offensively in a way that they're unlikely to be able to replicate in this game today. Boston, on the other hand, they were pretty close to a lot of their season averages. The big one where they were different is they had 7.8 less rebounds than they do on average on the season. Now, that could have some to do with the matchup with New York. But again, I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit of regression there where even they get 3, 4, 5 more rebounds, even if they're still below their season average. That's still going to give them a few more opportunities on offense, take away a few opportunities from the Knicks when they're on offense. And so you can kind of see where this is going just looking at the most recent matchup and season averages. I think the Knicks overachieved, and I think Boston maybe underachieved slightly, though I would put them probably around the same today as what I had them before. Looking at the trends, this is what's going to keep me off the spread probably, is that the ATS trends for Boston are terrible. Very strong trends against them. And then in this matchup specifically, the under is 17-8 in the last 25 in Boston. So the things I'm interested in here, capping this game for myself, I put it at Boston -4 and a 204 total. The total right now is anywhere from 206.5 to 208. So I do like the under here, especially if you can get that 208. I think I already bet that. Actually, I have to double check. But I think this is one that I already bet today because I don't think we're going to get that repeat offensive performance from the Knicks. Boston's -7. And so, if anything, I would like the Knicks +7 there, but I don't really love the spread on this game either way. That is absolutely something I'll watch live because I think there could be some runs in this game and some good opportunity on either side if you like one side of the spread. All right, last game for today, and we'll wrap this up, is the Heat and the Suns. Miami is +8.5. The total is 217. It looks like Jimmy Butler should be playing in this game, so obviously that helps Miami, but he has been fragile this year, not necessarily in his career. And so, it's, I think, a little iffy with him coming back, whether he'll be able to make it through a full game, how many minutes he'll play, just a lot that's hard to know. Also, Phoenix gets DeAndre Ayton back here. I think JaVale McGee is back as well, so they get a lot of their size back, even though with Biyombo and Smith, they've been playing really well inside in their absence, so I don't think they've even fallen off that much. In terms of the scoring numbers here, I looked at the last 5 when the Suns had Ayton, and they're scoring 115.4 points a game, so scoring the ball really well. They actually have a couple under 110 in there, but a 137, a 118, and they're giving up 104.6, so pretty good on the defensive end when Ayton is playing. Miami on the other side in their last 4 away, and remember, a lot of this is with key pieces out for them. They've still scored 114 points a game. They've been 108 or better in all 4 of their last 4 away. They have given up 112.3, so their defense hasn't been as strong. I think Butler coming back should help that a little bit. I don't think it rectifies it and makes it all better, but it should help a bit. Looking at the trends, there's really strong ATS trends for Miami here. The ones for Phoenix are about 50-50, and then strong over trends for both of these teams. Matchup specific, Miami is actually 11-2 in the last 13 at Phoenix against the spread, 20-7 against the spread in the last 27 games. Obviously, that's a pretty massive sample size, so we might not take too much away from that. But man, 11-2 last 13 at Phoenix is pretty strong. And then the over is 6-2 in the last 8. Now, when I capped this game before looking at the trends, I had it as Phoenix -8 and a 218 total. Right now, it's -8.5 and 217.5 total. So for me, there's, based on the numbers, not nearly enough value to jump on either side of this. Looking at the trends, I think if I was going to take something, I would put some hope in Butler coming back. That Miami could come out and play a good game here. And I think I would take the points with Miami if I was going to take something. Again, this is very likely something I'll watch live. And if it gets up to Miami +13, 14, 15, I'm going to think a lot harder about pulling the trigger. And then I am interested in the over here as well, especially if live that number can come down from 217 a bit. I think that the game script or this spot leans a little bit that way, and the trends definitely lean that way. So if we can get a better number, I'd be interested in that as well. All right, that's what I've got for today. Thanks for checking it out. Hope some of that information is helpful to you as you make your bets, and I'll look forward to seeing you on Twitter.